we are live.
All righty, let's call this meeting to order at the Budget and Finance Committee meeting, 6 o'clock. We'll go into public comment. Is there any public comments? There. And let's start our budget presentation. So tonight we're here with the Berwyn Fire Department, and Ben will lead for now, and then we'll go into the rest.
Thank you, Chairman Lennon. Today we are going over the fire department budget, and I'd like to introduce our fire chief, Thomas Hayes, and our assistant fire chief, Chris Corniglio. Our budget draft, as we had mentioned yesterday, we are including 3 trailing audit years in addition to projecting 2022 through 2025, as well as including the 2021 budget to actual. First, we will talk about the revenues. The big source of revenues for our fire department involves our collections for paramedic transport. This was a revenue line item that has really picked up over the past 3 years. Chief Hayes, I'm sure you can elaborate on what's transpired in 2019 with our rate structure and so forth that's led to our revenues being higher in recent years.
We did a cost report in 2019 and realized that not only for the area were we very low in our rates, very low across the state. So we went to council, and council approved a raise rate. Now that doesn't affect our residents. That's got to be made clear. Our residents still, we only charge them what their insurance or Medicare or Medicaid pays. Okay. The second part of that is in 2020, we became a part of a program that the state started in Illinois that had been going on in other states for many years, which is called GEMT. And based on our cost reports that we now submit annually, we were able to receive federal money that we previously did not. And what that does is typically if Medicaid reimbursed us $100 for a medical transport and our cost report determined that it costs $2,000, Medicaid, the federal government would reimburse us the difference. However, the state of Illinois does receive half of that difference. So for us, it's a substantial increase, even if the state does get half for managing that. So that's why we've seen in 3 years that revenue tripled,
Mm-hmm.
which is great.
And originally we were hoping that there was a way that we can break that revenue out. We budgeted in 2021 $500,000 for that type of revenue, in addition to our regular transport revenues. But unfortunately, the way those monies are combined with it's very difficult to extract. So we've decided that we're going to capture all that in one line item under paramedic collections. But indeed, over the years, the revenues have been a big help as far as our operating budget. And I believe we are being conservative in projecting 1.6 million. Our revenues already through September are right at the budget overall. So, but let's just keep it conservative for now.
And I think that's smart because we need to see some consistency with this program since it's only 2 years old, to see, over the course of 3 to 5 years, if it's going to be consistent. So
Sure.
that's the wise.
Okay. The rest of the revenue streams, we're going to keep constant, according to prior years' historical trends. But yes, paramedic collections are the biggest driver of the revenues. If there's no other questions on the revenues, I'll move over to expenditures. So for our expenditures, we are, the driver of the increases, specifically the salaries and wages, are tied into our union contract, as well as increases, with our non-union command staff. We're estimating that over the years, that average is somewhere around 2.5%. The rest of the salaries and stipends, at this point, we're gonna keep it consistent with the 2021 budget. It doesn't appear in that period of time that's going to change dramatically, but we'll see if anything, it leads us to think differently in the months ahead. Any other things on the stipends, Tom, that?
No, those are, again, you already stated, those are negotiated between the union and the city, and we don't have a whole lot of control over that. So I will say that the state average has been closer to 3%, and our union has worked with us over the years and negotiated lower than the state average, so that's been helpful for the city.
We then look at the other big driver in our payroll and related expenditures being the health insurance. For now, as we mentioned previously, we're gonna project a 5% increase. Hopefully, our broker at Berwyn Insurance will continue to keep our costs low, but keep that within that increased threshold. Dental, as well as our life insurance, we'll keep it at a conservative 10% growth. With that being said, that does it for the salaries and the benefits. I'll pass it over to Tommy to talk further about your general operating, unless anybody else has any further questions on salaries.
Well, you're projecting 100% growth on the tuition reimbursement?
The tuition reimbursement,
Or 98% growth?
no, that's 98% of the budget.
Of the budget.
Oh, okay.
So
Yes.
where we're at with with that today, the expenses and, yeah.
Oh, my apologies, I should have defined the target percentage, is at 9/12 of the year. And these percentages indicate what the actuals are compared to what our 2021 budget.
But more than likely, everyone's already finished up with their school and classes and.
Yeah, we
other
might see
tuition, right?
one or two more, so we'll probably come in under budget this year.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So on our general operating, Chief Hayes, if you could go over some comments on.
Okay, well, first of all, we don't foresee any increases, other than possibly supplies, and those are our vendors that we deal with. But I will say, Assistant Chief Caniglio does a good job every year. We not only, with our vendors, we look for other options every year. We're looking at that to determine better pricing. So other than the cost that we all experience, daily, that's the only foreseeable increases we have. Otherwise, we're gonna be able to remain steady on pretty much everything over the coming year and years. We've developed some plans, 5 and 7 year plans for equipment replacement, and over the last 3 years, we've implemented those, and it's given us some consistency. So now we're in a pretty good place, barring any emergencies, obviously. When emergencies do happen, whether they're to the firehouses or the equipment, it is quite costly. So, I think we're gonna touch on that a little later with the capital.
Yep.
As we go through, if there's any other questions, please let me know.
And that was one of the things we started several years ago, when I was on the previous budget committee as well, is let us know what you need, if you have to put so much money a year away to get that ambulance or to get that fire truck down the road or whatever, at least let's work towards that. It's a lot easier that way, and they've been very good about projecting and doing that as well.
So we go to the next section, and that's professional service fees. This can be regarded as in some cases a pass-through where it's driven by the revenues that are, we have two sources of expenditures in this category. One is our billing service, paramedic billing service. Their fee is approximately 4.75% of the revenue that they perform their collections upon and their billing and things like that. But the other big driver of it is the state's portion of the GMET program. So where the receipts we get from that program, the states take 50%. And that $450,000 projection is based on the year end 2020 and 2019.
So,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Mike. So when you see that jumped from 43,000 to 521, what that means is the difference there, we received half of that, and then that's that other half that we had to give back to the state. So we're not paying that much more.
So it's a
We
good thing when
received.
that goes up.
Yes.
And, as far as our revenues go, it helps. It helps on there. So that's on the paramedic. And then the repair and maintenance, Chief Hayes and I were talking. I mean, we're very grateful that you see the history and the projections is pretty stable. You don't see a dramatic increase in that, and that's measures that Chief has taken and Assistant Chief has taken to do a lot of things in-house to really help save the city.
We don't contract out our fleet maintenance anymore. We have firefighters on staff who are emergency vehicle
Wow.
technicians. And we started that about 8 years ago. And we saved approximately $40,000 a year by having our firefighters work on our vehicles. So that's a big driving factor there. Our Billy Glazer, he's a lieutenant here, and Adjourn Contreras, he is a firefighter here, and they are our mechanics, and they do a wonderful job. An example of that, in the past, we had to buy ambulances because our ambulances are so busy. And now an ambulance is close to $200,000 for an ambulance. Well, we found a way, we found a vendor that sells refurbished ambulances, so we were able to buy one for $105,000. Brand new motor, and it saved us a lot of money, obviously, but not only that, our plan going forward for the other two that we didn't replace, which we normally would have, our mechanics are gonna change the motors out.
Oh, wow. that's
So
fantastic.
instead of a $200,000 expense every 4 or 5 years, we're gonna spend about 12 grand and replace the motor. And we've already done that to one of them, so we saved a lot of money there.
Oh, great job. That's good.
Thank you. Again, Billy Glazer. Most of that credit. I can change oil.
Under the leadership of Chief Hayes.
So,
And the same goes for the building maintenance. We maintain most of the buildings ourselves, other than the technical work with the HVAC and things like that. We do some of the construction ourselves. We have skilled people in that field also, so we save a lot of money doing our own repairs. We don't call a plumber out. We do it ourselves. Things like that.
Yeah, the fire union, they work very well with the city. They don't say, oh, that's not my job, it's not in the contract. They're always going above and beyond. So we're very fortunate to have such wonderful fire personnel
Thank you.
that are ready to go ahead and help the city save money and make sure the job gets done.
Okay.
And then, of course, it leads us to the equipment and the lease. Again, same as repair and maintenance. Been able to keep that very stable and consistent, and no increases expected in the forward years, 2022, through 2025. The equipment lease, it's actually not only equipment lease, but we also have a lease that, for our ladder truck, the vehicle lease. And going over the outlook with Chief Hayes, we're anticipating an engine that we could be entering into a lease for as early as next year. And we're thinking it's gonna be somewhere around 7 to 8 years, is that?
Seven is what I would
7
recommend
years.
normally when we do that.
Yes.
And we talked about that in council.
Yes, last time when I
Yep.
came to council, about the truck last year, I brought that up. And typically, when you look at our equipment lease, that's gonna be the highest item you see in our budget, because fire equipment, EMS equipment, whether it's the heart monitors on the ambulances, the cost of an ambulance, the cost of a fire truck, the cost of an engine, those are expensive items.
You have just a quick question, Ben. The new enterprise the enterprise deal we're going into with, this is what is included here?
The lease is capturing that expense. We're anticipating that to be about 25,000 for the 3 vehicles. Yep.
Good.
So the last remaining, there's 2 more remaining line items in the operating budget. First, the internal service fund that reflects our claims on general liability as well as workers' compensation. For now, we're gonna keep it at the 2021 budget, but we've gotta wait and see how the year-end claims come in to make that final determination budget-wise. For the 2023 and 2025, I'm gonna put out the historical 2019 through 20 for now, just judging on seeing what the recent trends come in at. And then finally, capital outlay, going over with Chief Hayes, we have a different fund that this $100,000 is transferred to, and it's for the purpose of anticipated repair, major big ticket repair and maintenance to the buildings, as well as equipment, large big dollar equipment purchases. Going over this in the next 3-4 years. Chief, you were saying you don't anticipate anything material going on, but after 2025, that could change.
Right, again, unless unforeseeable emergencies,
Yeah.
such as, what the police department experienced with the roof, or HVAC system, that stuff's expensive. We're pretty, with the rest of our budget and our line items with our maintenance, we're able to sustain for a few years. So if we're able to continue to put that capital outlay there, by the time we do need those major repairs, we should be fine. We should be in a good position.
Good.
So, and of course, on the next page, you see the results of that, the transfer. Well, this year, it started at, for the capital projects fund, it started out at $50,000 for 2021, but it's gonna build up to $450,000 now. Of course, if nothing happens as far as major expenditures toward that, that'll be a nice accumulation for the years afterward on those, any pressing big capital expenditures afterward. Right?
Is there any, projected, like state mandates that are gonna change any of the expenses that you're gonna have in the fire unit, as we move forward?
That's a great question. There aren't any that we see coming. However, last year, I had to come to council because they determined that our monitors were going to go out of date, and not be able to maintain them, and that would have been last January. So we were kind of put in a bind at that point, and I had to come to council to replace the monitors, which were $20,000 a piece. So that was, $80,000 for the 4. So they only give us 6 months on that.
Sure.
So That's not normal, and that's the only one I've experienced in the last few years, so let's, you know, we're always keeping an eye on that,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
we'll continue to do
The
that.
majority of all the state mandates that have been going through this past year are gonna be seen, we're gonna be talking about it next week with the police department and also with 911 services. That's where you're gonna be seeing a lot of unfunded state mandates that they are passing along to us to pay.
They're good at that.
They did exceptionally well this past year,
Mhm.
and we're gonna talk about that next week.
Good.
Yeah, that's some of the police.
Mhm.
And also with
And
dispatch
now-
also.
Yeah, they were telling us, well, I mean, Chris
Yes.
is dealing with this stuff.
Mhm.
Just had a quick question, Ben.
Yes.
Do you know for like the revenue, like a lot of times hospitals it's hard for them to collect a lot of the bills that go out. Is it similar to our paramedic collections? Is there still more money that we could be collecting?
You know, it's, the interesting thing though, it's all depends on the documentation that takes place. I mean,
Okay.
whether it's insurance, whether it's, you know, the patients themselves. I know you guys have gotta go through this extensive process to put us in position to be able to collect from insurance and things of that nature. So, yes, it's definitely something that you gotta dot all your i's and cross the t's in order to get,
And like when
that
bills are,
impairs the collectability.
right, and then like when the bills aren't paid, is it referred to like a billing agency or anything like that? Or like a collection agency?
It is, but it goes through we go through a process where anything beyond 180 days, we have to write off as uncollectible.
So what we do is
Yeah.
we bill it, if they have insurance,
Yeah.
so we bill it to their insurance.
Right.
And if their insurance pays $400 or $300, and the ambulance fee was $800, we get the $400. And if it's a resident, we're not gonna go after them for the $400 extra dollars. But then also, there's probably a number of ambulance calls that with uninsured.
Right.
Yes, and
And
those are
that's,
write-offs.
those are
And-
the ones that we're not
Yeah,
gonna
that you can't
be able to
collect.
collect.
Yeah, and the homeless community also, those
Yeah.
are uncollectible, and, but what we do, sometimes we'll run into a patient that possibly an unconscious, where we can't get a name or that, so we do follow-ups later,
Okay.
to see if we can get that information, to try to get at least what the city
Right.
was owed at that.
And if we get the government to pay, right, Medicare, Medicaid, I don't know how that goes.
Well, that reimbursement is definitely making a difference.
Yeah,
so
that
that's-
does, definitely. Okay. Any other questions or anything? Do you have anything for us, others?
No,
You would?
I've told all of you before, you know, the success of our department, you know, we need your support, so we appreciate it very much. Thank
No, you guys do a fantastic job, guys, and we really, everybody in the city, really appreciates all the work you do. The response times are, you know, extraordinary.
Thank you.
So we definitely, we need to do a better job of highlighting the great work that you guys do.
Thank you, appreciate that.
And we appreciate really the budget. For the last 4 years that I've been on the budget committee, you've worked really well with us and been honest and open and really trying to help us out, but then also, you know, we always have to remember the health and safety of our community. So what I always say is if we need something, you need to say it. We need to budget for it, push it out, whatever we need to do for the health and safety of our community.
Thank you.
So we appreciate that.
That's our goal.
One more, that does remind me, one more thing. So I don't know if this is the right meeting to bring this up or when we could do this, but definitely would love to see, maybe we could put something in the budget for is, kind of like a fire-friendly workshop. Because just being in real estate, I get to go to so many homes. It's sad how many people don't have fire detectors. How many don't have smoke detectors or carbon monoxide detectors. So, yeah, maybe something we continue that and, you know, obviously get some funds allocated to it where we could maybe even give out a certain amount of smoke detectors or carbon monoxide detectors because, you know, that's the last thing we wanna do is, you know, go to a fire and, you know, and you guys are trying to do your best job to try to save the family, but, you know, there we could, you know, maybe just increase the awareness.
Yeah, we do have some thoughts and, things that we wanted to put in place, we wanted to institute actually last year. But even this year, COVID's,
Yeah.
had an effect on all those programs.
Right.
But to your point, that is things that we are addressing.
And they also do currently quite a bit of outreach with the community. They're out at all the different schools. I know at my block party, they were out there, and the kids love it. They get an educational talk. They actually did pretty good with the quiz questions you guys gave them. So it wasn't just like, let's put out the hose and, you know, get everyone wet. It was more like, here, what do you know and what can we help you learn? And these are the safety tips. So
Right.
that's always successful when they do that outreach, not only at the schools, but at the block parties.
When we can educate and have fun at the same time.
Exactly.
It's good for everybody.
Mhm.
The key thing is, and you guys are on this as well, is just looking for seeking out grants and things like that, and through your cooperative with other fire departments as well, kind of talking with each other about, this is available, this grant, you know, make sure you put in for it. So I know you've done that in the past, and just continue to do that as well. Definitely helps.
Will do.
Any other new business or anything? Questions? Well, with that,
If there are any questions later, please send me an email, give me a phone call. Be more than happy to help you.
yeah, I would encourage, I try to encourage the aldermen and just people in general to meet with department heads and to tour and understand the needs and the, you know, the wants, the needs, and the pushback too, a lot of times, because many years, I know we sat here and it's like, we have to cut, and, you know, there's things that we need to know, so I think it's very important that we need to meet with, you know, on a regular basis, just to understand what the changes are within the unit, and how that's gonna impact our budget moving forward. And like I say, state mandates and things like that, I know there's a bunch of state unfunded state mandates that the state's pushing through, and those are always a lot of money for us as well, so it's easy for them to push them out there, but if they're not gonna give you money to help subsidize that, it hurts our budget, because our budget just goes down, or goes up and our revenue goes down. So, with that being said, I just need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All righty, thank you all, it's a good meeting.
Thank you.
Oh, that was great. It was less than 30 minutes.
It took me longer to get down here.
Next week's might be a little more.
Oh, yeah.
They might be a little longer.
Yeah.
Oh, no, yeah, they were talking at the MTS board that they want a whole new, you know, emergency place where they're gonna put it, right?
You talking about the dispatch center?
Yeah.
Yeah. They gotta